Walk down any high street in Britain today and you'll likely see the signs. Shoplifters will be prosecuted. Shoplifting, once seen as a low-level crime, is now making headlines. Police statistics show a sharp rise in shoplifting offences over the past few years. Some experts argue that the rise in shoplifting is directly linked to the cost of living crisis. But is desperation the only factor driving this surge in shoplifting? The answer, as we'll see, is far more complex. While the headlines often focus on the financial losses incurred by businesses, there's another side to this story. For shop workers, dealing with shoplifting incidents can be a stressful and sometimes dangerous experience. Confrontations with shoplifters can escalate quickly, putting employees at risk. Beyond the immediate impact on individuals, there's a broader societal concern. Some argue that the rise in shoplifting points to a breakdown in law and order. To understand the true scale of the UK's shoplifting crisis, we need to look beyond the statistics. We'll speak to retailers on the front line, hearing first-hand accounts of how shoplifting is impacting their livelihoods. We'll also speak to those who have resorted to shoplifting, trying to understand the circumstances that led them down this path. It's about understanding the human cost of this crisis and exploring potential solutions. Large supermarkets like Tesco, Sainsbury's and Asda have all reported significant losses due to shoplifting. Security footage often shows individuals filling entire shopping trolleys with high-value items, walking right past security guards. Clothing stores like Primark, H&M and Zara are also grappling with significant losses. The rise in shoplifting is putting immense pressure on retailers already struggling with thin profit margins. Many businesses have been forced to increase security measures, further impacting profitability. The question is, how long can they continue to absorb these losses before it starts to impact their ability to operate? Small, independent retailers are particularly vulnerable, often lacking the resources for sophisticated security systems or dedicated security staff. They become easy targets for opportunistic thieves. For these independent businesses, every item stolen represents a significant loss. Some small business owners have even been forced to close their doors due to the relentless pressure of shoplifting. Their stories highlight the very real human cost of this crisis. With the rise of e-commerce, criminals have found new and innovative ways to steal from retailers. Online marketplaces, social media platforms, and even seemingly legitimate websites can be used to peddle stolen goods. Fake accounts, stolen credit card details, and manipulated IP addresses can be used to place fraudulent orders. Industry experts estimate that online retailers lose billions of pounds each year to e-commerce fraud. Combating online shoplifting requires a multi-pronged approach involving robust security measures and consumer education. Authorities across the UK are stepping up their efforts to combat the shoplifting crisis. One visible change has been an increased police presence in known shoplifting hotspots. Plainclothes officers are being deployed in stores, blending in with shoppers to catch shoplifters in the act. The use of facial recognition technology is also being explored, with trials underway in some areas. Police are also working to disrupt organised crime rings involved in large-scale shoplifting operations. The use of criminal behaviour orders, or CBOs, is another tool being employed by authorities. Authorities are increasingly recognising the need for a more holistic approach, one that addresses the underlying social and economic factors that contribute to this complex issue. Early intervention programs aimed at young people at risk of becoming involved in shoplifting are being implemented. Recognizing that financial hardship is often a driving factor behind shoplifting, some local authorities are partnering with food banks and charities. Retailers are also being encouraged to play their part in tackling shoplifting. This might involve connecting offenders with support services or offering them opportunities for employment or training. While the commitment to tackling shoplifting is evident, the question of resources remains a pressing concern. Police forces across the UK have faced significant budget cuts in recent years, leaving them stretched thin. The lack of resources is particularly acute in some areas, with rural communities and deprived inner-city neighbourhoods often bearing the brunt of police cuts. Social services are struggling to provide adequate support to those most in need. Addressing the underlying social and economic factors that contribute to crime requires a long-term commitment and sustained investment. A growing chorus of voices is calling for a shift in approach, one that prioritizes rehabilitation over retribution. Proponents of this approach point to the success of restorative justice initiatives. These initiatives aim to repair the harm caused by crime and provide offenders with an opportunity to make amends. Another key aspect of a rehabilitative approach is addressing the underlying issues that contribute to shoplifting. By addressing the root causes of shoplifting, the hope is to break the cycle of offending and reduce reoffending rates. The question of who bears the ultimate responsibility for tackling shoplifting is complex. Some argue that the onus should fall on the authorities, primarily the police and the justice system. Shoplifting is a crime, and it's the role of law enforcement to prevent crime and apprehend those who break the law. This viewpoint emphasizes a robust police presence, swift prosecution, and deterrent sentencing. Proponents point to the social contract where citizens abide by laws in exchange for protection. Rampant shoplifting undermines this contract, creating a sense of lawlessness. This can lead to a decline in community security and escalate to more serious offences. Therefore, it's the duty of the authorities to uphold the law and ensure consequences for violators. Retailers, especially small businesses, are ill-equipped to handle shoplifting alone. Security measures can be costly and not always effective. Confronting shoplifters can be dangerous, leading to potential violence. Authorities, with their training and resources, should bear the primary responsibility. This ensures a consistent and fair application of the law. A well-funded police force and justice system are crucial. Adequate funding allows for a visible police presence, acting as a deterrent. It ensures thorough investigations and swift court cases. Without sufficient resources, authorities are hamstrung, leaving businesses and communities vulnerable. Retailers must shoulder responsibility for curbing shoplifting. Relying solely on authorities is impractical. Police resources are finite, and shoplifting may not always be a top priority. Retailers must take proactive steps to protect their businesses, invest in robust security systems, including high-quality CCTV cameras, strategically placed mirrors, and anti-theft devices. Well-lit, well-maintained stores deter shoplifting. Train staff to be vigilant and recognize suspicious behavior. A visible staff presence can discourage shoplifting, share information about known shoplifters and their methods. This collective approach can deter organized shoplifting rings. Tackling shoplifting requires a collaborative approach, a shared responsibility between law enforcement, retailers, and the community. Open communication and regular meetings help share information about shoplifting trends and challenges. This allows for a targeted, intelligence-led approach to policing. Social services and community organizations play a vital role in addressing underlying causes. Encouraging active citizenship and community involvement fosters a culture of intolerance towards shoplifting. Finding the right balance between the responsibilities of authorities and retailers is an ongoing challenge. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, as the appropriate approach may vary depending on factors such as the local crime rate, the types of businesses in a particular area, and the resources available to both law enforcement and retailers. However, some key principles can guide this balancing act. Firstly, it's crucial to recognize that shoplifting is not a victimless crime. While it might be tempting to view it as merely stealing from large corporations, the reality is that it impacts businesses of all sizes, often with devastating consequences for small, independent retailers. Moreover, the cost of shoplifting is ultimately passed on to consumers through higher prices, creating a cycle that disadvantages everyone. Secondly, any effective approach must address both the symptoms and the root causes of shoplifting. This means investing in both reactive measures such as law enforcement and security and proactive measures such as social programs and community initiatives. Focusing solely on one aspect without addressing the other is unlikely to yield sustainable results. Finally, open communication and collaboration are essential. Creating channels for dialogue between stakeholders, sharing information, and working together to develop and implement solutions are crucial for success. This requires building trust and understanding between law enforcement, retailers, community organizations, and the public. Ultimately, tackling shoplifting effectively requires a collective effort, recognizing that everyone has a role to play in creating safer and more resilient communities. As we've seen, the UK's shoplifting crisis is a complex issue with far-reaching consequences. It's a problem that touches every level of society, from the small business owner struggling to keep their doors open to the large corporations grappling with significant financial losses. The human cost is undeniable, with shop workers facing the constant threat of violence and communities grappling with a diminished sense of security. Despite the best efforts of authorities and retailers, the crisis shows no signs of abating. The statistics paint a stark picture, with shoplifting offences remaining stubbornly high. The reasons for this are complex and multifaceted, a tangled web of social, economic and individual factors that contribute to this persistent problem. While we've explored the various measures being implemented to combat shoplifting, from increased police presence to innovative security technologies, it's clear that there's no easy solution. Each approach has its strengths and limitations, and the effectiveness of any given measure often depends on local context and specific circumstances. What is clear, however, is that the status quo is unsustainable. The current situation is taking a toll on businesses, communities and individuals. It's eroding trust, fueling a sense of insecurity, and perpetuating a cycle of crime and despair. Addressing this crisis requires a fundamental shift in perspective, a move away from simplistic solutions towards a more nuanced and collaborative approach. Assessing the effectiveness of current actions in tackling the UK's shoplifting crisis presents a mixed bag. While some initiatives show promise, others merely scratch the surface. Increased police presence may deter in the short term, but it fails to address underlying reasons for shoplifting. Tougher sentencing and criminal behaviour orders seem logical, but prisons are overcrowded and often fail to rehabilitate. Without addressing root causes like poverty and addiction, the cycle of offending continues. Holistic approaches show glimmers of hope. Early intervention programs for at-risk youth have shown success. Addressing issues like peer pressure and lack of opportunity. Rehabilitation-focused initiatives such as restorative justice programs and support services for addiction and mental health offer a more humane approach. Addressing underlying causes aims to break the cycle, providing tools to turn lives around. However, these initiatives face challenges. Funding cuts to social services limit their impact. Without adequate resources, programs are limited. Navigating the UK's shoplifting crisis requires a nuanced approach and collaborative solutions. There's no single answer, no magic bullet. It requires addressing both symptoms and root causes. Poverty, inequality, addiction, and mental health issues contribute to shoplifting. A holistic approach prioritizes rehabilitation and support. Investing in social services and community organizations is essential. Retailers must also invest in security and work with law enforcement. Balancing these approaches is key to tackling the crisis. The UK's shoplifting crisis demands a collective response, a concerted effort from all sectors of society. This is not merely a problem for law enforcement or retailers to solve on their own. It requires a collaborative approach that involves policymakers, community leaders, social service providers, businesses and citizens alike. Firstly, we need to acknowledge the true scale of the problem. Shoplifting is not a victimless crime. It has a real and lasting impact on businesses, communities and individuals. We need to move beyond simplistic narratives that downplay the seriousness of this issue. and recognize the complex factors that contribute to its persistence. Secondly, we need to invest in solutions that address both the symptoms and the root causes of shoplifting. This means providing adequate funding for law enforcement, supporting retailers in their efforts to improve security, and investing in social programs that tackle issues such as poverty, addiction, and mental health. Thirdly, we need to foster a culture of collaboration and communication. This means breaking down silos between different sectors, encouraging dialogue between stakeholders, and working together to develop and implement innovative solutions. It also means empowering communities to play an active role in preventing crime and supporting those who have been affected by it. The UK's shoplifting crisis is a complex problem, but it's not insurmountable. By acknowledging the scale of the challenge, investing in effective solutions, and working together, we can create safer, more resilient communities and break the cycle of crime that holds so many back. The time for action is now.
Into the thing. People are not subscribed. Please subscribe.